Recorded. Hello and welcome to the Real Men of Real Estate radio show. I'm your host, Patrick Franz, the Note Mentor. And when you tune into my show, you'll learn how to build passive monthly cash flow and create true financial freedom by investing in mortgage notes. You'll learn how to collect cash flow from real estate without owning the real estate. I mean, who really wants to deal with tenants, toilets, termites, or any of the other troubles associated with being a landlord? And I plan to bring on amazing experts to the show so that you can get a well-rounded view of note investing and possibly change your financial future for the better and leave a better financial legacy. So y'all know financial intelligence is what I preach, but note investing is what I teach. And on today's show, you're not going to want to go anywhere, folks, because I have an amazing guest speaker, Mark Pantak. He's a professional investor, has 30 years of experience. He's done everything from rentals, multifamily, you name it. And we're going to talk about note investing and the market today. So don't go anywhere. But let me remind you, folks, for the listeners, this show is designed for informational purposes only. This is not legal or investment advice. This is generally opinions and lessons from professional investors' experiences that you may learn from. But if you're going to partake in any type of an investment, my suggestion is that you do seek legal counsel and make sure that you're protected in the proper ways. And I wish you good luck in your investing. But folks, you know, we're talking about note investing on my radio show, and it is being the bank. People are hearing that statement more and more. Being the bank, owning the mortgage note, the promissory note, the debt that is tied to a physical piece of real estate. The beautiful thing about it, folks, is that you can collect that monthly cash flow on a monthly basis without having the issues associated with being a landlord. I mean, who cares to get the phone calls? Who cares to manage their property management company? Who cares to spend all the extra expenses time after time that steal away from your yield? And my guest, Mark, has done it all. And he knows very well that note investing is a great deal. And Mark, introduce yourself to the listeners and tell them a little bit about your background. And we're going to get into and why note investing became attractive to you.
Great, Patrick. Thank you very much. Well, I started out in Michigan back in 1980, and I just knew I didn't like the cold. So I graduated, moved to Dallas, Texas, because I knew Texas was going to boom. I actually was interested California, Florida, different places, but Texas was in the middle, and I figured, okay, Texas was affordable, and it seemed like the place to go. That was back in 1980. I got involved, like many people, didn't know what I was doing. Somebody at the local real estate investment association said, "Oh, you should do multifamily." Really? Okay, sounds good. So they got me into a fourplex in the hood that I had hair when I started. And I could tell horror stories about what not to do. And so basically I learned basic Spanish, la renta, and then mañana, and then cerveza, and how they all connected together, but I had difficulty collecting that rent by the week. So I started out doing everything wrong. And so it's easier to do things wrong than it is to do right. And that's why education is so important, basic education, and most importantly, building relationships with people like Patrick, with Desi, with people who are in the business, have experience, and that you develop these relationships with. So that's the biggest thing I learned early on, is the importance of basic education, networking, and building these relationships. And the note business, more than anything, is key. And of the areas, houses, notes, apartments, I like notes the best because I can apply my creativity. There's things I can do where I can buy a non-performing note, I can get it re-performing, dramatically increasing my yield. I can help people stay in their homes, so I can do good and do well. And you can leverage it with your IRA, make it tax-free. You can combine it with other people's money. You can sell a partial. There's so many fantastic creative things you can do to skyrocket your yield. So just the basic yield you can get on a performing note, 6, 8, 10%. Most people be ecstatic just getting that. So that's my intro salvo. You know me, I can keep going.
No, it's a beautiful thing. That's why I wanted you on the show. You're a talker like me, and the audience will appreciate it. But let's slow down for 1 minute, because I know there's probably some people listening and they're going, what are they talking about? What is a note? And he's talking about increased yield and partials and all these things, and it's probably over their head a little bit. But let's digress back to telling people what note investing is, in Mark's opinion, and why is it attractive?
Perfect. Well, there's a couple different aspects of this, but most of us know, if you've ever bought a house before, most of the time you go to the bank, you get a loan from the bank. The bank wants to see some kind of down payment, unless there's exceptions to that, like a USDA loan or a VA loan, or even FHA is a low down payment, but these are all government secured loans. There's other loans, more conventional loans that you can get that are like 20% down, might be 10, 15% down, but there's typically some kind of skin in the game. That's for owner occupants. And the more it's an investor loan, the more there's a down payment required. That being said, there's a party who is receiving those monthly payments. Now, what most people, they're used to being the person paying on that money, not receiving that money. And it's like a light bulb moment. You mean, I could be the person receiving that monthly payment, mailbox money every month? Yeah. How do I get in on that? Well, when I first got into this and started inquiring, I was told, well, there's these pool of notes. And so what these mortgage companies do is they bundle all these millions and millions of dollars worth together. And here, you can buy a small pool for 1.8 million. I'm like, oh, I guess this note business is not for me. Well, wait a minute. There's other options. There are. I better learn about these other options. So I did. And being in Texas, it's one of the best states. And so there's a thing called seller financing as well. So especially in these smaller towns, I know most people think a basic house anywhere is at least somewhere between $500,000 to $1 million these days. And that's true in most of the majors. I mean, you go to Austin, it's like $500,000 now. However, if you get about 2 to 3 to 4 hours outside of Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, even Ohio, all over the country, there's what these called smaller towns that don't have the high-tech paying jobs. And I know it's shocking. You can actually find houses between 50 and 100,000 or less in small towns through mid-America, parts of Texas. And that's the niche that I focus on, because I don't know if you realize that there's a huge demand and shortage of affordable housing. And a lot of these people, they can't qualify for a loan. So they'd love to have somebody finance them. So that's what I do. I'm the bank. And what I do is I buy this house at a deep discount. And the deep discount, I'm talking like 20,000 or less sometimes, put minimum into it, make sure it's livable, and then sell it with seller financing for typically twice what I paid. But now that person, they give a down payment, and we create a debt that's a piece of paper and that's secured by the real estate. So if they don't pay, we can foreclose. And that's where Texas I like the best, because you can foreclose in as little as 21 days. So I've got my little niche of small town Texas, and there's people moving to Texas, including small towns, and people even, they've left the small towns to go to bigger cities, but now people are coming back, because with the technology today, you can live virtually anywhere. So there's some unique niches, and that's one of 3 niches I'd like to touch on today. But the most important thing is there's ways, and again, you're going to talk at some point about working with yourself and Desi, that you can learn, get the education and networking you need, become part of a group, and then also get access to some of these notes, because that's the biggest challenge that sometimes people have. Sometimes, where do I even find these?
Yeah, and you just mentioned something great, and I'm not sure if it flew over folks' heads that are listening or not, but when somebody buys a house and they have the cash in hand to buy the house, they just hand over the cash, and then they get the deed signed over to them and handed the keys, and the deal's done, and they get to live in the house. Most people don't have enough money to buy a house cash, and so when they buy a house, people need to seek financing. When you get financing to buy a home, you fill out a document called a promissory note. And whether it's Wells Fargo that has you fill out and sign this promissory note, or whether it's a professional real estate investor like Mark, they're becoming the bank, and they're creating the financing on this property, allowing you to make payments on a promissory note on monies owed. And then the mortgage document secures the physical real estate as collateral for the terms of that note. If they're not met, the house can be repossessed, so to speak, right, Mark? And so whether it's Wells Fargo or Bank of America or a professional investor like Mark, who has a piece of property for sale and they sell it and they carry back the financing, they create that promissory note. Now you're in debt to that lender. Now, when we talk about mortgage note investing, there's an opportunity for anybody out there where you can go and buy one of these existing mortgage notes and take the place of the bank. But it sounds odd to people, Mark, because I've heard a lot of people say, well, it's so confusing because, of course, everybody's used to making their mortgage payment to a financial institution, a commercial institution like Wells Fargo or a big bank. And that makes sense to write your mortgage payment check out every month to Wells Fargo. People understand that. But it would blows people's minds that they would ever write a mortgage check to pay their mortgage payment every month to a guy named Mark. Can you clarify that for a moment?
I'm so glad you brought that up. It's so great that you're slowing down so that people can follow along. And this is going to be recorded, by the way, and people can go ahead and listen to it online, which might be helpful as well as making sure you reach out to Patrick or myself and get more information. But that being said, the thing to understand is there's a whole industry called servicers. And so even an individual like myself, whether it's a bank, financial institution, or myself, I really don't want to be involved in the minutia of the collection. So there's a third party company and you actually make your payment to them. It goes to them. They collect it. They make sure that the taxes and insurance are quantified, because there's a thing called escrow account so that these things are addressed. But there's a whole system to make it simple where all you do is you hire these people. I mean, it could be $25, $35, $50 a month, very nominal. Oftentimes the borrower might pay that or we might split it. But the point being is there's systems in place that these big financial institutions have and that the small mom and pop individual can also apply. And so you automate the business. That way you don't have to be the bookkeeper. Now, some people prefer to do it that way and they've got hundreds of notes, but that's their choice. I prefer to have everything done through a third party. Then that way, if there's any question, they've got the amortization table. They got the documentation. They help with taxes and filing. There's just some details. I don't want to deal with that. I want to deal with finding the note, investing the note, and putting that in place and then buying the next one. And that's the focus I want to have, is the networking and building relationships to find the next note to buy that. Then most of my time and energy is the due diligence. Yes, Patrick.
So I would say, folks, I hope that clarifies for you. It's just like if you owned a rental property and you put a property manager in place between you and the renter. Well, no one sends their mortgage payment. No one sends their mortgage payment to Patrick or Mark. That would be odd. We put a licensed loan servicing company in place, and that licensed loan servicing company is who's going to communicate with the borrower, and that's who the borrower sends their mortgage payments to. And so I hope we clarified that one. And there's going to be more to come, folks. We're going to take our first quick commercial break here. Don't go anywhere. This is the Real Men of Real Estate radio show on KCAA. We'll be right back with professional investor Mark Pantak. Don't go anywhere.
Real Men of Real Estate.
Men of Real Estate radio show here on KCAA.
Most mortgages can be purchased.
All of us want to live in thriving communities.
Basically, go to the radio station, KCAAradio.com.
You can find us on your dial at 102.3 FM, 1050 AM, as well as 106.5 FM.
Okay, folks. Hey, welcome back to the Real Men of Real Estate radio show. This is your host, Patrick Franz, the Note Mentor, and we are back. Thanks for hanging in there after that commercial break. And I'm here with professional investor Mark Pantak, a friend of mine, a hustler, a guy that's been doing this in the trenches for about 30 years now. Is that right, Mark?
Yeah, over 30 years.
Over 30. And just so that folks know who they're speaking to and getting this information from, because you are going to give us a little bit of your guesstimation on where the market is headed, what's going on with real estate, maybe stock markets altogether, and what people should prepare for, what they should expect. So let's give them a little bit of a story here on Mark. And you alluded to it a little bit in the last segment, but let's tell them a little bit about your experience and all the real estate investing you've been involved with and why you gravitated to notes.
Right. Well, many people out there listening are interested in real estate. They've heard about real estate, but they've also seen some show on TV. It's a reality TV show that's not really based on reality because they do 30 days worth of work in 30 minutes. Ha, ha, ha. And so, and of course, they got to have drama and all this kind of stuff. And most people are like, man, I don't want to have to deal with these contractors and these headaches. I don't want to deal with these tenants not paying and tearing up my house. I would do real estate, but I don't know where to start. I don't have the money. I don't have the credit. It's a headache. I mean, but the flip side is this, geez, I just broke 50 years old or 60 or whatever the number is. And it's like, the stock market's making me nervous. The government's making me nervous. There's all kind of things. Inflation's making me nervous. What the heck? I got to do something to fund my kids' education, my retirement. And here's the sad thing. Most people don't bother making a priority basic financial literacy, financial education. So I happened many years ago to come across a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by a guy named Robert Kiyosaki, the best-selling author worldwide. Many people have heard of. And then 20 years ago, I had the good opportunity to have a radio talk show myself in Dallas, where I interviewed him and all his Rich Dad advisors and spoke at some of his events. And then I got speaking on the cruise for the National Real Estate Investor Association and spoke at real estate investment clubs all around the country, coast to coast. And in my local market, which predominantly became Houston, Texas, people heard about my success and people said to me, well, man, I'd like to learn how to do this. And so through the local Real Estate Investor Association, there's a thing called wholesaling. And so I became the focus group leader for wholesaling. Why? Not because I wanted to do the wholesaling. I want to train other people how to go out there and find these deals who were scared, who didn't have the money, who didn't know what to do, but they could find it, bring it to me. I'd evaluate it, and I would be the buyer. So they would have virtually no risk by finding and bringing these things to me. Now, I've also trained people how to do that applied to notes. And people say, what? Well, when you're out there, you need to have a Patrick or Desi or someone like me that has experience that you can bring these notes to, especially when you're first getting started, or better yet, get some education, as Patrick will be talking about here shortly. And what I do mostly is I got people who say, I just don't have millions of dollars. I've only got 50, 100,000, whatever it might be. And it's in my retirement plan in the 401k from a prior employer. And I said, what if I could work with you for free? Free? Well, you might want to take Patrick's course because it's very affordable and have basics down. But literally what I do is I find a house in a small town that I can buy for not only 50 cents on the dollar, typically less because there's just not a lot of buyers like a big city. And when I do, and I buy it for all cash, I use a private lender's money. Now that's a different aspect where you can loan short term and make 6, 8, 10, 12%. And some people do that and it's like a 6-month basis. So I work with those people, but then I also work with the people that say, hey, I want to just set it and forget it. So I don't want to have to be every 6 months constantly doing this. Can't I get that kind of return, but have it where it's in my retirement plan for the next 10 years? Yes, that's buying a performing note. Oh, how do I do that? So I work with people on actual deals where I find the deal. Sometimes I teach them how to find the deal, but then find the deal, negotiate the deal, structure the deal, and get it sold, and then make sure we have the right attorney, all the professionals involved, so all the documentation is correct. And what ends up happening then is this note that we've created, there's a secondary market of people who want to buy that for their retirement. So there's a resale of these notes if you get educated and know what to do. So one of the niches that I focus on is creating these. And then people say, so you don't hold any real estate? Oh, no, I do. But I'm going to buy a property maybe in a bigger city like in Austin or San Antonio, where it's going to appreciate the places. Because people say, well, what about these notes? Aren't they going to lose value with inflation and everything? In a small town, many times those houses, 10, 20, 50 years ago, they were 50 to 100,000. They still are. They haven't gone up. They haven't gone down. And there's people living there. And it's like, oh, well, the population is 10,000. Yeah, but look, 20 years ago, the population was 10,000. And now there's a Walmart within driving distance. So the point being is I only buy normally in county seats where there's a courthouse, there's a Walmart, there's a McDonald's, there's a major chain like a Holiday Inn Express or whatever. But there's certain fundamentals in terms of part of my homework and due diligence I do to make sure, okay, this would be a good investment. And here's why. So there's things to get educated about. And that's where Desi will be talking about that in a little bit. But I like apartments. I buy apartments for passive. I like houses. However, I'm only going to buy the houses that are going to be, I'm going to have a management company. I'm going to put on autopilot. So I actually have 3 areas. I have houses, I have notes, I have apartments. I like the notes the best because I can buy a non-performing note at a discount. Then I can turn that around and make it re-performing. and then I can make a profit on that, and I can take some of that profit and then reinvest in my next note or an apartment. So the problem with apartments, everybody's all gung-ho on apartments these days, your money's tied up for 5 to 7 years. There's not liquidity. With houses and notes, there's a liquidity that you don't have with apartments. Now, they're all good, but each have their own niche area that you got to get educated about. So how's that?
I feel like because you are so educated in those different areas that there seems to be the right timing for some of these, right? So sometimes it's the right timing for apartments. Sometimes it's the right timing for single family, sometimes the right timing for notes. And since you follow all the markets, what's your outlook right now on the markets, right? We've got the real estate market that is still just thriving and going crazy, even though most of us have expected it to have a big turn down prior to now. The stock market's starting to feel it. Crypto's down huge. Everything's kind of crazy. What's your outlook on the real estate market and the market having to do with mortgage note investing?
The big challenge these last couple of years has been the market's been so hot. It's been difficult to find notes. The inventory has dried up in the apartment space, in the house space, in the note space. So when there's a recession and things begin to soften, now I'm not expecting a crash like we had in 2008 because a lot of things regarding underwriting the loans, there's a lot of screwy things that happen. I highly recommend watch the movie The Big Short because there's a lot of fraud that happened. The government had to come in and bail out. So I'm not expecting anything like that. However, these last so many years, we've been in an unusual market because interest rates have gone to record lows more than, and people are like freaking out going, oh my God, 6%. Well, traditionally 6 to 8% has been in the range. So it's not even fully there yet. And the trade-off is when you've got the government borrowing trillions and trillions of dollars, they're not going to be able to raise the interest rates only so high and only for so long before it's going to have to come down and adjust. So I'm really not concerned about the interest rates. I actually think it's a good thing. The trade-off has been the affordability, and a lot of people in these bigger cities just can't afford the houses. So with every problem, there's an opportunity. And so what I see is there's people who now, and again, gas prices, inflation, all these different things, but they could literally live an hour to an hour and a half in a beautiful area out in the country. There still could be a Walmart there and there'd be some facilities there, but they could come in the city if they need to. But now they can raise their kids in a rural environment. They could have horses. There's a whole healthier environment than the big city. They don't have the crime. And so a lot of people are going to be looking. There are people who want to retire. There's people who can afford with their family, with technology. So every problem is an opportunity. So I see a great opportunity, especially in a state like Texas, in buying places. Lots of people would love to own a house in 5 acres or a house with a little bit of land. So there's these niche opportunities, and especially as there's recession, people lose their jobs, there's going to be more foreclosures. So as even small, even like 1%, 2%, people say, well, that's nothing. Well, it goes from 1,000 to 2,000 in a major city. And so now I only need, or you only need, one house a month. And if you could pick up one house a month as a foreclosure, what I do is if you get educated or work with me, I stop the foreclosure, reinstate it, and take over that debt. This is a different area related, but it's called subject to the existing loan. So we've got veterans here in San Antonio, and they bought a house a year ago at 2.5% interest rate fixed for 30 years at zero down. Now I can take over that loan for $200,000. I don't have to go to the bank. And now I can sell that, and something is called a wraparound, which I'm wrapping around the existing debt, and I can make a spread from the 2.5 they're charging. I might charge 8.5, 6.5, but I'm making a spread on the bank's money, and now my yield, I could be making $200, $300, $400 a month, but I don't have a tenant, I don't have toilets, I'm not a landlord. I've created a note, buying a house and selling, wrapping around subject to an existing debt. And it's like, it's a new house. It's 5 or 10 years old. And there's huge numbers of people who've got 20,000 down for that house, but they can't get the house at the bank, but they can get it through me. So there's always going to be these niche opportunities. And on top of that, there's 70 million people like myself, baby boomers, who, if not someone my age, somebody older, like a parent, that are transitioning. And so you have all this huge number of people of the baby boomer generation and parents of the baby boomers that are needing to sell their homes. So probate, especially my niche, is pre-probate. And what I love to do is buy one of these houses and then do what? depending on the situation, seller finance it and create a note. So what I focus on is I've got 3 strategies that I'm buying properties and then creating notes. And depending on the circumstance, I might hold it for a year. So I shift the taxes to long-term capital gains. But this is what I do is I help people who want to have passive income. So passive income from houses, passive income from apartments, and most importantly, passive income from notes. Because if you've got money sitting there and you don't know what to do with it, you can talk to Patrick, you can talk to myself, and we help people to passively invest their money and also get the basic education and networking, because you got to understand some basic fundamentals, and that's what we're here. We're here to help educate people. Anything else you want to add to that, Patrick?
I just, the beauty of it, it keeps coming back to a guy like Mark with that much experience, folks, in this business. He always keeps coming back to, he has creative ways to turn these real estate deals into paper, where he does not have the liability of the property. He puts homeowners in there, not tenants. He's able to help people become homeowners that may otherwise not have been able to because they can't qualify at a big bank like Wells Fargo. And it becomes an opportunity for folks just like you who are listening, where you can own one of these mortgage notes in your portfolio. Yes, put a licensed loan servicing company in place so that the homeowner doesn't send the monthly mortgage payment to you personally. That would be odd. But can you imagine just collecting a monthly payment very passively because somebody's living somewhere making their mortgage payment on time? And that's what we're talking about. We're going to talk about this much, much more right when we come back from this next commercial break. This is the Real Men of Real Estate radio show on KCAA, and we'll see you just in a few moments with professional investor Mark Pantak. Don't go anywhere.
This is Steve Matley. Join me every Thursday at 3 p.m. right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations radio talk show. I spent decades as a professional construction manager, business owner, real estate developer, and a college educator, and I enjoy learning new things from others. We talk a lot about real estate, business, and finance, but we cover a diverse range of other topics as well. Some of the topics we've discussed in the past few months include real estate investing, leadership, higher education, ADUs, marketing using technology, multifamily rental properties, business strategy, entrepreneurship. You never know who may show up or what they may talk about. So join us right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations Radio.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections. Hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Real Men of Real Estate radio show. I'm your host, Patrick Franz, the Note Mentor. I am here with my buddy, Mark Pantak, professional investor, well over 30 years of experience. We've been talking real estate. We've been talking market conditions. We've been talking creating notes, investing in notes, and it's only getting better. Here's what I want to know from you, Mark, for the folks that are listening. This note investing may be very foreign to them, which it is normally when people hear about it for the first time. It's sort of, people say, well, this must be too good to be true, or gosh, this doesn't make sense. How could somebody do this? And there's a lot of these questions that happen, but it's true, folks. You can own a mortgage note. You can collect monthly mortgage payments, not rent. You can collect cash flow from real estate monthly, very passively, and not have to deal with managing your property management company or dealing with the phone calls from the tenants or repairing the toilet or the water heater that broke. And it's such a fantastic investment vehicle that's why we're here informing you that it's available, and more people should get into this. They should hold notes in their portfolios if they are investors. But Mark, maybe people listening are saying, well, I'm not a big time investor. I don't have a lot of money. I've never invested in a lot of stocks. I'm not a big time investor. Maybe this isn't for me. Well, let me ask you, Mark, who is note investing for?
Well, some people like to say everyone. And I say, well, in theory, everyone, because everyone's going to need to retire at some point, and everyone has financial responsibilities, and everyone would benefit with basic financial education so that they could have enough passive income that would replace their earned income from their job, so that that income, little by little, over time, some people could do it 5-10 years. But here's the thing, most people never get started. So mistake number one is not making financial education, financial literacy a priority. So when people say to me all the time, it's so overwhelming, where should I get started? I say, go read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And once you've read that book, then read the next book, Cash Flow Quadrant, and then read the next book, and just start reading every book you can on the topic. Now, along with that, and people think I'm crazy, I tell people, read Dave Ramsey. Why Dave Ramsey? Well, you don't want to be the person paying, you want to be the person receiving. so there's good debt and bad debt. So, but you want to be the person that has people that have to get up in the morning, go to work, to go to the job that they hate because they got to pay the mortgage to you or to me or to Patrick. And so here's the reality. People are going to always need a roof over their head. So that's why apartments can be good, but that's why houses are good. Even mobile homes on land can be good. And so there, any kind of housing, the demand for housing is not going to go away. People are always going to need a roof over their head. And people are always going to prefer to own than rent if they could. Matter of fact, one of the little strategies I've done is I bought a small apartment complex and I immediately said to everybody, hey, I see you got a growing family. At some point, you're going to outgrow this 2-bedroom apartment. Have you ever thought about owning a home? Well, yes, I have, but my credit's not good enough or this or that, whatever. What if I could help you? Oh, that'd be wonderful. So I literally have it where I get paid when they're a tenant in my apartment. I get paid when they move out of my apartment and they buy a house from me. And they don't just buy a house from me. I am the bank and I finance them. So now I can get them in the house, and then I work with them to help them improve their credit. I work with them to qualify for a bank loan refinance in the future. But I can literally have somebody in my apartment or in my rental, could be a house or apartment, and transition to buying a house from and through me. And now I'm getting paid twice. I get paid multiple times, and I even get paid in the back end when they refinance and cash me out. So the beautiful thing is, as you focus on the education and the networking and the relationships and all these foundational things, and it doesn't have to take a lot of time. Matter of fact, you've got a program. Is this the time for you to talk about what you offer and helping people with the education, or we're going to do it at the very end?
No, we'll wait to the end. What I want people to understand is this, because you just said it the best. You said that, you have an apartment. People are there as tenants. They're paying you rent. You sent a letter to them to say, well, how would you like to own a house at some point if you outgrow this small little apartment you're in? And your focus would be to go and find a home that you can secure, that you can put minimal dollars into to fix up, to get it to livable. Then maybe you could reach back out to those people, or when they reach out to you and say, hey, I remember you sent us a letter and we do want to be homeowners. You said you could help. How can you help? Well, the beautiful thing is, folks, he's going to find them a house. He's going to allow them to buy the house, even though they normally wouldn't be able to. And maybe it's just something as small as their FICO score doesn't match up with Wells Fargo's criteria. They have income, they have good jobs, it's a good family, and they want to be homeowners, and they want to have their kids with a yard and a place to be free and play. And like you said, it's better to be an owner if they can, rather than a renter and live in an apartment. And so here you're making a solution, getting a family out of a small apartment into a beautiful home, changing their lives. And the beautiful thing is, folks, he's not selling them the house like a realtor and removing the monthly cash flow from his wallet. He's taking a family that's been paying him rent for so long in an apartment. He's allowing them to become homeowners, but guys, he's creating a mortgage note, and he's allowing them to buy the house. He's becoming the bank like a Wells Fargo would. He's carrying back that financing. And what Mark's trying to tell you is, they went from being tenants in an apartment that he owned, they were paying him monthly rent, to now being homeowners, which helps the family out immensely. I'm sure they're grateful to you, Mark. And then at the end of the day, folks, they're paying Mark a monthly mortgage payment now. And so Mark's monthly cash flow stream doesn't stop, even when somebody changes from being a tenant of his to wanting to be a homeowner. Does that sound like a good summary, Mark?
Yes, and the important thing about that too is to understand everything in business and real estate is about relationships. So part of the thing is how you build trust is over time and getting to see a person's character and their behavior. So when I have a good tenant and that good tenant pays me on time and agreed and communicates and does everything I'm looking for in a homeowner, they might have, because they don't have the education, they might have a little credit ding or a little issue, whatever, but I help educate them on how to transition because they're going to be leaving my apartment, going to buy a house somewhere from someone anyways. And most of the time I can get them in the house faster than they could because they go to a realtor. First thing, realtor wants to know, what's your credit score? Are you pre-qualified, blah, blah, blah. And so I see this is a good person. They got good character. They pay on time. So I'm willing to take a little bit more risk because they might have rented from me for a year, but also during that time, I got them with the credit repair company. I got them how to save the down payment. I even found out that they've got tools. They can fix things. They got friends and family. So I give them even a sweat equity opportunity to put flooring in, to paint, sheetrock, to do certain things I even pay them for that then I can pay them, and that applies toward their down payment. So the thing I love about real estate is the creativity of all the different ways I can help people. I can help the community. I've got neighbors that thank me. I've got people who've got elderly parents who thank me. It's so rewarding to have all these people thanking you because as you're buying a house, as you're selling a house, as you're creating a note, as you're doing all these different things, you're helping. Now, I know on your side, you're just strictly not even dealing with the real estate. You're strictly dealing with the paper side. And that's one of the opportunities. And I know you're going to, before we close here today, talk about how people can learn about that very affordably.
Well, let me ask you this. Why, if someone's listening out there, right, and they're not as experienced as you or I in the space, they're going, well, this guy's got over 30 years of experience. No wonder he can do all this. And it sounds fancy, but it's not me. Right. Well,
right.
Just someone who's listening that may have, $100,000 sitting in an IRA account, or they're considering, gosh, I see some of my friends becoming wealthier and wealthier by acquiring real estate and becoming a landlord and owning these rental properties and such. Now, why would one of these listeners consider buying a note and owning a note as an investment versus maybe buying a rental property and being a landlord as an investment? Why would somebody consider a note?
And here's the other good thing about that, whether it's apartments or notes, typically a house, most people think of just investing right in your neighborhood, in your own backyard. In some parts of California, that might not be viable. You might find it's a lot easier to do it in Ohio or the Midwest or Texas or some other state. Typically notes, you're not right there. There's systems and places and things in place to where you can own these anywhere, and you have professionals on your team who inspect the property, who verify, the title company, attorney, all these different people. And so literally you can do anything from anywhere. And especially if you're teamed up with someone with experience like Patrick or myself, we are able to go ahead and with our years of experience, we're able to verify. Verification of the facts and details and the paperwork is all very important to protect you, us, the money, everything, to do things correctly. Now, part of that's an educational process. So a lot of what I focus on in my building relationship with somebody is somebody could say, hey, I just heard you on the show. Here's 100,000. I want to invest. I go, whoa, 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 not so fast. I don't know you. I don't know what your needs are. My background, I was a vice president of financial planning firm back in the 80s, to give you some idea, to date myself. And so basically I slow down. And sometimes I've told people, do you know anything about notes? They say, no. I say, go talk to Patrick. He's got a basic educational program that's very affordable. He's got a mastermind. He's got all this. Go get some basic education, because I have a Facebook group. I have some things I do, but I don't have at the same level as you. So there's a complementary of, but my main thing is I'm in my 60s now. I've already made most of my money. I'm going to be living in Central, South America, all over the world in the next couple of years. In the future, anybody goes, whatever happened to so-and-so? Oh, here he is at the Pacific Ocean, but I'm still doing notes from other countries around the world. And that's the beautiful thing, is you can get the education and the network and the relationships so that you can do this from computers and from phones and from technology, and you can do it anywhere in the world, and your money works so you don't have to.
You're hearing it from a guy that's done it all. And so you always hear about people saying, well, if I'm going to own a rental property, I want to be able to get over to the rental property and kick it and make sure it still stands and exists. So one of the beauties, folks, of note investing is that it can be done all over the country. I always ask people, hey, you know, when you had your mortgage with Wells Fargo, and you're paying your mortgage with Wells Fargo for 5-6 years straight, right? Did anybody from Wells Fargo ever come over and knock on the door for a visit, make sure the property is in good condition, make sure? No one from Wells Fargo comes to visit. They're just the lender. They own your mortgage note, and they don't want to have to come visit the property. And imagine if that's you. Imagine if you could buy these mortgage notes all across the country, not have to go and visit them physically yourself. You can do it from anywhere as long as you have an internet connection. It's much easier to manage a servicing company than it is to manage a property manager. It's much easier to deal with an owner of a home than it is to deal with a renter of someone else's home. There's just so many benefits to it. And you're hearing right here, straight from the mouth of a guy that's been doing this for over 30 years. And he's saying, guys, the paper business and owning the debt on these physical pieces of real estate is where it's at. People talk passive cash flow all the time, and I always have an issue with that term because everybody claims passive cash flow. And when you get down to it in those arenas, it's not very passive. A lot of work involved. Note investing is very, very passive. You can do it from anywhere in the country as long as you have an internet connection. You don't need to walk up and kick the property yourself. And that's why it's a beautiful thing. Don't go anywhere, folks. We're going to take one more commercial break. But when we come back, we're going to introduce you to how to get a hold of Mark, how to get a hold of myself, and how maybe you can start to educate yourself on some of this and change your life and financial future for the better. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
I love how New School is able to help me greatly with my career
because they actually have experience working in the field. The greatest thing about New School is the fact that there are so many different disciplines, which allows you to really understand and get a good insight into different types of design. And I think it's that whole changing mindset of what design can really do for a city. And
you never know who may show up or what they may talk about. So join us right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations Radio.
Real Men
This is Steve Matley.
of
Join me
Real
every
Estate.
Thursday.
Men
at
of
3
Real
p.m.
Estate
right
Radio
here on
Show here on KCAA.
Most
Building
mortgages
Solid
can be
Foundations
purchased.
Radio Talk Show.
All of us
I
want to
spent
live in
decades
thriving
as a professional
communities.
construction manager,
Basically,
business
go
owner,
to the
real estate
radio
developer,
station
and content
KCAA
radio.com.
radio.com.
You can find us on your dial at 102.3 FM, 1050 AM, as well as 106.5 FM.
Okay, folks, we're back. Thank you for hanging in there. This is the Real Men of Real Estate Radio Show here on KCAA Radio. I'm your host, Patrick Franz, the Note Mentor, and we're back with my co-host, I guess we can call you Mark, my co-speaker, educator, but Mark Pantak, professional investor. And we've talked so much about everything, Mark, on this show, from real estate, creative financing, note investing, where the markets are going to go and what to be prepared for, and the whole 9 yards. And so I appreciate you helping with all of this, Mark. And, you know, in summary, before we get them information on how they might be able to contact you or myself or get some coaching and education on this, maybe participate in a deal if they have money to invest. But, you know, this is for everyone, Mark. I mean, it doesn't need to be wealthy people. We're not talking you need to be a multimillionaire here or have years of experience. Is this for everyone? Meaning just somebody who's got $50,000 or $75,000 sitting in an IRA account because they've worked their job for so many years, hard workers. There's people with an old motorhome that's worth 65 grand sitting on the side of the house that they only use once a year now, right? And they could use this money to invest and to better their future, to supplement their retirement income, maybe to retire wealthier over time. Do you agree with that?
Well, so often I've had people tell me, well, I'd like to do this, but I don't have any money. And I go, well, that's odd. You're 45 years old. Hard to believe at 45 or whatever the age might be, you don't have anything. Let's take a look. Have you ever done a financial statement? Have you ever looked at, oh, well, you've got this insurance policy that you've got this cash value, you've got 25,000 there. Oh, I never thought about that. Or like you mentioned the motorhome, or there's this lot, or there's this, or there's that. I've literally had people that had 5,000 available and they bought a partial on a note just because that's all they want to do. I had other people, we took the 5,000 and we used that money for marketing to find one of these houses, to make a wholesale fee or a note assignment fee or some kind of fee that recouped their money so they got to learn, make their money back, and then they could duplicate it and do it again. So I've had people put up 5,000 to be involved with a subject to deal where we're taking over existing $200,000 debt. They put up $5,000 to make up the back payments. Then when the person gave me the down payment, they got their $5,000 back, but now they had a part interest in this property. So the creativity and the education and the networking and the relationships is what I emphasize. So most of the time when people reaches out, can I give my number for how people?
Oh, please do, because Mark is also a fellow mentor and educator in the space. He's been involved for so many years that he's a good guy. He tries to do good ethical work. He tries to help people have win-win situations. So Mark, if somebody did want to contact you, what's the best couple of ways for them to get a hold of you?
People are so shocked when they go and they text me. My number is 832-766-6997. And they say, I just heard you on the radio, on that podcast, on that Zoom, on that whatever. And you're the person you're not some guru with some salesperson. No. And you're not asking me for a credit card or trying to immediately sell me something. No. And you're telling me the books to read and the courses, and you're referring me to someone like a Patrick, and you're just focused on helping me. Yeah. They're shocked. Well, why would you do that? Because this is a relationship business. And quite frankly, I'm not going to do business with everybody. It's not a fit. So I'm looking for the few that make sense based on their time and money and personal life situation. That's a good mutual fit, that we're going to mutually benefit each other for whatever reason. I've literally had people listen to a show like this and say, would you buy my mom's house? Well, yeah. So you never know, but I just focus on talking to lots and lots of people and asking them questions to find out where their situation is and how can we help each other. I literally had a guy 5 years ago from Philadelphia, and he started out just reaching out and said, how much is your mentoring? And I told him how much it was. I don't have that right now. I said, no problem. Let me tell you what to do. And I told him the books, and I stayed in touch. And over the next 12 months, I just helped him and helped him and helped him. A year later, he came back and said, I've got the money now. I'm like, what? And he'd saved the money. And a year later, he hired me. And now he's one of the most successful guys nationally, where he's like a speaker. And I mean, he's become a real estate agent, that's successful. So it's all about making a difference in people's lives. It's all about helping people. So real quickly, again, if you just text me, now make sure, because I get text messages from robocallers and everybody else like anyone else. So just mention something about notes or the radio show or Patrick or me, or so how you found me. Give me some basic information versus some hi. tell me like your name, where you're from, how you learned about me, and I'll text you back and we'll make an appointment. We'll talk, and no hard sales pitch, no anything. I'm just going to ask you some questions, and I'm just going to turn you on to some good information. And if nothing else, most of the time we become Facebook friends, and I send you a video of one of the times I've been interviewed like this, where you can learn more about who I am, what I do, and we take it slow to get to know each other. That's my focus.
Yeah. And, it's over the years, how many new skills you've acquired that make you who you are today, right? It's not about the outcome, it's about the journey. And I know that people sometimes wish, Mark, that the circumstances around them would just magically change so that their life could be better. And I know I listen to Jim Rohn a lot, and Jim Rohn says, well, certainly don't wish for your circumstances around you to change. Hope that you can gain new skills so that you can be a better value to the marketplace. And that's what Mark is. And he's willing to help you guys out. And again, Mark, one more time, what's your phone number for them?
And I just mentioned real quick that Jim Rohn was my number one mentor. And I literally traveled around the country speaking 100 times in 90 days to help fill, events with 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 people. Not only Jim Rohn, but his mentor, Tony Robbins, and lots of different people over the years. I'm huge into personal development. Sometimes people and I connect just on that, but I'd love to talk to whoever you are and see how we can build a relationship, help each other. My number, you can text me at. Text is the best way. Just text me at 832, that's a Houston area code, 832-766-6997. And then you got your programs that I'm very excited about, because you help so many people very affordably. And make sure we have people hear about that too.
Yeah, thank you for that. And Mark has been one of my guest speakers on our weekly mastermind call. And so our group, the Note Investor University, just discusses note investing. and how to become a pro at note investing by using your own money and other people's money. But the key to it is, guys, getting yourself in the game. Surround yourself with people that are playing the game that you want to get good at. Talk with experts like Mark and myself. Get involved in a mastermind group, a Facebook group, read books, everything you can possibly do, because it's those new skills you gain that will allow you to produce more value to the marketplace, which will in turn create financial stability for yourself. But if everybody wants to do notes, then you can go to noteinvestoruniversity.com, and we have a monthly mastermind group where we meet every Saturday from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. to discuss note investing with wonderful guest speakers, just like Mark Pantak. And we discuss how you guys can change your lives financially, build a better financial future, and allow yourself to network with the right people that are in the trenches. And so at noteinvestoruniversity.com, you can certainly go join that mastermind group and get yourself in the game. And if you really want to be a pro, then you can enroll in the Note Investor University as a student. And there's a program for you that will in no time make you a pro note investor and add note investing as a valuable skill that you can use for the rest of your life. And who knows, after 30 years, you may be value adding to the marketplace so much like Mark, whereas you're helping tenants rent a good apartment. You're helping homeowners find a good home and become homeowners when they couldn't normally become one. You're helping investors leverage their capital to become wealthier. You're helping other people by becoming speakers on their radio shows and everything else. And who knows where it will go, but it all starts with a little bit of education. So folks, be sure to reach out to myself, Patrick Franz, go to noteinvestoruniversity.com, or then please reach out to Mark Pantak if you have any questions about any of the real estate investing he's been involved with for 30 years. He's a wealth of information, and feel free to reach out. We are open book, and you can just send text messages or emails and we will respond. We aren't those gurus that have $8 an hour associates that are reaching back out on our behalf. It's us personally, and we'd love to help you folks change your life for the better financially. So folks, listen, this is all we've got for today. Thank you so much for listening in. This is the Real Men of Real Estate radio show with your host, Patrick Franz, the Note Mentor, and we are signing off. So you folks enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
The most diversified radio station on the dial, KCAA.
Yard House Restaurant of Temecula takes this special time